of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Many skills and many people will be needed to build the BC economy now and in the years to come. A fundamental tool for all new Canadians and new immigrants to this country will be their ability to speak English. But at the end of this school year, thousands of BC students will be cut off from their English language programs as a result of this government's inaction. At the end of this fiscal year, as a result of federal cutbacks, students in British Columbia will not have access to these programs to help build a better, stronger life for themselves and for their communities and for this province. So my question is to the Minister of Advanced Education. Why is it that this government has known for 2 years that the federal government has vacated the field of English language training, and they've done nothing to fix it?
Minister for Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the Leader of the Opposition for that question. Madam Speaker, I must be clear that the issue that gives rise to the situation we have is a result, indeed, of the federal government changing the delivery model of English language training, which we, on this side of the House, publicly opposed since 2012. And I must say, Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is incorrect. English as a second language, or ELL as known now, is being offered in a variety of locations across British Columbia. In light of the federal government's change by the model by which they deliver ESL, $17 million, Madam Speaker, in transitional funding was offered to institutions across British Columbia to ensure that they made the necessary adjustments to the new delivery model.
Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplemental.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I know it comes as a surprise to we on this side of the House, and I suspect it's going to be a surprise to the minister responsible at the federal level to hear that the province of British Columbia opposed this, because I'll just read what that minister said less than a year ago on CBC Radio. That minister said, quote, we've actually done it with the agreement of the province of British Columbia. I've been working very closely with, makes reference to the member for Prince George Valemount, on this transition. She supports it. The Premier supports it. The government endorses it. That's the end of the quote from the federal minister. So I'm pleased to hear that the Minister of Advanced Education has decided now to vigorously oppose it, but we're down to a few more months left, and 9,000 students will have access to their English language programs cut off come April 1st. So regardless of whether the minister is correct or incorrect on whether they opposed it or supported it, my question is back to him. Why is there no plan in place to ensure that the young people in British Columbia and those, Honourable Speaker, who largely have post-secondary education already, why are we not in British Columbia giving the tools they need to succeed in their communities and in their workplace and to build this province? Why isn't the province doing something about that?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, thanks to the member opposite for the question. Once again, the Leader of the Opposition, Madam Speaker, is correct. I have a document. Perhaps I can table it afterwards. A letter, Madam Speaker, a letter dated July 10, 2012. From the then Minister of Jobs, Pat Bell, Madam Speaker, at the time. And we'll paraphrase a portion of the letter. I am disappointed with the decision as British Columbia has successfully delivered groundbreaking and internationally recognized programs for over 10 years, recognizing the need for locally responsive settlement services. Madam Speaker, this side of the House opposed the way the federal government was providing ESL, and this document will be tabled, Madam Speaker, afterwards. The Leader of the Opposition should get his facts correct.
Opposition on a further supplemental.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. And it's rich for that member to say, get his facts correct about something that happened a few years ago, because I recall questions from the member for Vancouver Point Grey that had some pretty serious facts in them that weren't remembered by that member, even though he was directly responsible. So I'm pleased to hear that the departed Pat Bell had something to say about it, but we haven't heard much. We haven't heard much from the government since then. And again, I go back to the federal minister who less than a year ago said, quote, we've actually done it with the provincial government's agreement. So again, through you, to the minister responsible, can he guarantee the people of BC that the government of British Columbia, rather than focusing all of their energy on temporary foreign workers who get a ticket home when they come to this country, why won't he instead, and his colleagues instead, build BC with immigrants who have access to citizenship, who have access to the tools they need to build lives for themselves, build lives in their communities? Will he guarantee today that there will be as many spaces for English language training in April as there are today? Can he do that?
Yeah.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, once again must I remind the Leader of the Opposition that this government funded a number of post-secondary institutions across British Columbia to the tune of $17.2 million. Madam Speaker, $17.2 million of provincial money to provide transitional funding to make sure these institutions could work to a model that was sustainable, Madam Speaker, in the long term.
Vancouver Mount Pleasant.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. The minister should know that transitional money will end come December for VCC. $8 million short for VCC coming this December, and that means the end of the ELL programming for the students. Almost two-thirds, Madam Speaker, of the immigrants aged between 25 to 44 come with a university degree. The way and the pathway for them to succeed is to get access to ELL programs, to which they will not be able to get come this December. Vancouver Community College has been providing ELL programs for 40 years, Madam Speaker. It is the largest and the oldest ELL provider in the province. VCC will have no choice but to close its doors to nearly half of the 9,000 students in this province if this minister does not agree to provide the $17 million necessary to keep the ELL programs going beyond December. So as someone who claims that he understands the importance of this program, will the minister tell the students, the 40 students that are here in this gallery today, the other 360 at the Trade and Convention Center who are watching question period today, will the minister tell the anxious students that he will not turn his back on them and that the immigrant community will get the support that they deserve?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Madam Speaker, it's appropriate that I clarify the facts for the member opposite and clarify some of the facts as presented that were simply not correct. The federal government has changed the model by which English second language is being delivered. They are not providing flow-through funding to the majority of universities, although I may note, and the member may already know this, that 4 institutions across British Columbia have obtained funding from the federal government to continue to provide ESL. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, there are over 35 not-for-profit organizations delivering ESL in over 80 locations across British Columbia. So, Madam Speaker, ESL will continue to be provided just by a different provider, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, the chair needs to hear the answer and the question. Vancouver Mount Pleasant.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The minister knows as well as I do, the federal money actually provides for the ELSA program or the LINK program, which is at a different level of English as a second language for the immigrant community. It is not going to bring the students to the level that they need to get into the employment level that they're seeking right now with the public post-secondary education institutions. The minister knows that. When my father came to Canada, he didn't speak a word of English, Madam Speaker. He went to VCC and enrolled in the ELL program. Because of that, our family was financially independent and did not have to rely on government assistance. That's the pathway that some 9,000 students want today. I hope the minister agrees that everyone, including the immigrant community, should have the opportunity to succeed. Those thousands of jobs that the minister talks about that they want people to get access to, the immigrant community need ELL to be able to get access to those job opportunities. Provinces like Ontario, Alberta pay for these programs themselves. Will the minister tell the students that he will step in, join these provinces, and support the immigrant community by committing to fund the $17 million that is necessary to continue to fund ELL programs ongoing?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, this country and this province is built by generations of immigrants, whether it's first generation like myself, Madam Speaker. English is my second language as well. And Madam Speaker, this province and this country will continue to be built by immigrants, Madam Speaker, whether they are immigrants or they're coming with skills that can help our economy, Madam Speaker. And clearly that side of the House certainly doesn't support new immigrants with skills coming into this province, Madam Speaker, but this side does. Madam, there you go. Hit a sore point. Madam Speaker, this side of...
Members, please take your seat.
Madam Speaker, this side of the House will continue...
Please take your seat. Please continue.
Madam Speaker, this side of the House will continue to support new Canadians as they come to Canada to build new life and to build this country, Madam Speaker.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Madam Speaker, this minister from all and everyone from that side should know that thousands of immigrants benefited from this program to be successful, not only for their personal success, but also to contribute to the economy of this province and for this country. And they are agreeing with the federal government to cut that program, Mr. Speaker, and it's not going to happen anymore now. That opportunity is gone now for the future students. So, Madam Speaker, I will go and then talk about some of those students and immigrants. Jennifer Menendez came to Canada from El Salvador in 2007 with a degree in science and communications with a limited English language understanding, no support network, with little or no money. Madam Speaker, through Camosun College, she was able to get the language training she needed to get a good job. This is what she has to say when she learned about cutting to this program, Madam Speaker, and I quote, "Just picture yourself in a whole different country with a little or no money, where your language is not much used. What would you do if you have many skills to put to use, but the language is your barrier?" Madam Speaker, to the minister, if the Jennifer Menendez lived in Ontario today, her provincial government would ensure she had access to English language program. Why won't British Columbia do the same thing?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Madam Speaker, the member from Newton Surrey certainly will continue to misrepresent the facts even when presented with the dates and the exact quotations of the fact that this government opposed the changes to the system, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and then the member from Surrey Newton also will continue to provide incorrect information to all those valuable new immigrants that come to Canada. The federal government has changed the model by which they deliver ESL. And ESL has continued to be provided in over 80 locations, Madam Speaker, across the province. And over 35 and not-for-profit organizations are going to continue to provide ESL all across BC.
Member for Surrey Newton on a supplemental.
Madam Speaker, the facts. 2013, December 12, the Minister of Federal Minister responsible, Chris Alexander, on CBC Radio said this: "We have actually done it with the agreement of the provincial government. I have been working very closely with the Minister of Jobs he mentioned here on this transition. She supports it. Premier supports it. The government endorses it." Those are the facts, Minister. Read them. Not only that they stayed mum on when they were cutting this program, they supported that. Those are the facts. This is from the Minister, from the federal government, Madam Speaker. Here, it was the Camosun College, Madam Speaker, here in Victoria that helped Jennifer get the language skills she needed. Camosun is the second largest English language learning provider in BC, Madam Speaker. Because of this government's deal with the federal government, Camosun will be losing $2.4 million. Will the minister stand here today and explain why did he agree to allow these programs cut?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Madam Speaker, the member from Newton Surrey certainly has well-scripted notes and unable to even change the script when presented with the evidence contrary to what he's suggesting, Madam Speaker. The federal minister, Madam Speaker, was incorrect. Madam Speaker, the federal minister, Madam Speaker, was incorrect. This government has never endorsed the changes in the program. Madam Speaker, this government has not endorsed this program.
Burnaby Lougheed.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Paul Yu was a sea captain back in China with a degree in business administration. Today, Paul is a British Columbian eagerly pursuing his dreams to become a marine superintendent or perhaps even start his own business one day. And his first steps to doing that is studying English at Camosun. Paul says that it's at Camosun he gets the professional language training that he needs to not only become a better adapted citizen in his new home country, Canada, but he gets the necessary prerequisite that he needs for his specialized career program. So it is disheartening to see Paul here in the precinct along with 300 others today away from their families on their own time and dime to fight for access to vital English training that people like my parents and I myself depended on. And there are over 2,200 students and 100 faculty at BCC alone, many of whom are my colleagues and students who will be devastated by this government's inaction. So my question through you, Madam Speaker, will the Minister of Advanced Education please explain how is it possible that this government can always find money for their friends like ex-Liberal MLA Mr. Ben Stewart, $2,400 for his Chinese lessons, yet continue to tell 9,000 British Columbians like Mr. Paul Yu, tough luck.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, there's certainly no shortage of federal programs that the member opposite will suggest that the province of BC and the taxpayers of BC should pay for, Madam Speaker. There's no shortage of federal programs that the members opposite, they can grow money on their magic NDP money tree and suggest that British Columbia residents should be paying for, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this side of the House,
Members.
Madam Speaker, this side of the House is absolutely committed, and you've heard it a number of times before, to growing a strong economy, Madam Speaker. That side of the House continues to oppose it. In fact, it took leadership of the member from Oak Bay to lead all these individuals here to oppose LNG, Madam Speaker. That's what this side stands for, Madam.
Member for Vancouver Kensington.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The BC Liberals and this minister are turning their back on immigrants and English language learners.
Hear, hear.
They've got money for a former MLA, Liberal MLA, Ben Stewart, for $2,400 for private Chinese lessons, and they're telling 9,000 British Columbians they don't have access to English language courses. Madam Speaker, the loss of these programs are not just a loss to people who want to build their life in Canada, it's a loss to all of us. Our province is a better place because of these programs. They have meant that people with the skills our province needs have been able to realize their goals and contribute to BC's workplaces. The responsibility for restoring these programs rests at this minister's feet. Will the minister take action and save these programs?
Yeah.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, the members opposite certainly may know this, but perhaps I'll give them that information that the province certainly has more of a limited role in settlement services after the federal government assumed responsibility for settlement services for most newcomers as of April 1, 2014, Madam Speaker. The province has committed $4 million in funding to ensure that newcomers not eligible for federal immigration services can continue to access services. Madam Speaker, this side, Madam Speaker, is committed to ensure that new immigrants get the full support to ensure they become productive British Columbians.
Vancouver Hastings.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And Honourable Speaker, it's remarkable that this Minister of Advanced Education will tell you the province is throwing their hands up, are providing no support for thousands and thousands of people who need language skills, and if they're lucky, maybe they can find a non-profit to help them out. That's what this minister calls leadership. Honourable Speaker, the government, the Liberal government, has been trying to clean up the mess they made in 2002 when they botched skills training in this province. They now have a plan to do that. However, what we now know is that literally thousands and thousands of British Columbians, because of a lack of English language skills, will not be able to take advantage of that training and of those opportunities. That should be an investment, Honourable Speaker, in those people, in their future and in their families, but it's not going to happen because of this government and its lack of responsibility on this. The federal minister has said publicly that the province not only condones these cuts, they in fact have supported them. How does the minister reconcile, and I know the Minister of Advanced Education is fully engaged in this issue of training, but how does the minister reconcile the end of English language programs with the skills training initiatives that are supposed to be moving forward, and how does he tell those thousands of people who need language training that they can participate in those programs and that he's not shutting the door on them?
Minister of Advanced Education.
Well, Madam Speaker, I've corrected the misinformation provided by several of the members, and to continue on the same line, that we, on this side of the House, did not support the federal government's move to a new model. Madam Speaker, and I will certainly be tabling the letters suggesting the same. And Madam Speaker, in fact, on December the 13th, on page A17 of a certain newspaper, I'm quoted as saying at the time the federal government proposed the changes, the minister did not endorse the federal changes whatsoever. So, Madam Speaker, this is, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times that the members opposite have misrepresented the facts, Madam Speaker. We acknowledge, Madam Speaker, that immigrants play... Madam Speaker, we acknowledge that the immigrants play such an important part in building our province, and we certainly would have preferred the previous system, Madam Speaker, but we are committed to ensure that ESL, we're going to work with our institutions to ensure that it's sustainable as we move forward.
Member for Port Coquitlam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and to the member across the way, I don't have to cue outrage. It's thousands of students outside this chamber who are losing their access to English as a second language, English language learning. They're the ones who are outraged on the My question is to the minister. The minister stood in this House and he's said that he's really pleased that immigrants are part of our economy and that he wants them to build a strong British Columbia economy. Well, the only way that's going to happen, Honourable Speaker, is by immigrants being able to make full use of the skills and the attributes that they bring to this country. And key to that is being able to speak English. And those students don't care whether the minister supported it 2 years ago or doesn't support it now. What they want is to see a program reinstated. And what's really interesting, Honourable Speaker, is that Ontario managed to step up and fill the gap. Alberta saw the program needed to be fixed, and they've stepped up and filled the gap. The trouble is that British Columbia, who probably has more people requiring English language learning than those two provinces, has not been able to step up and fill the gap, Honourable Speaker. So my question to the minister is simple. Why is British Columbia unable to do what Alberta and Ontario have been able to do?
Recognizing the Minister of Education.
Well, Madam Speakers, new immigrants to British Columbia and Canada are indeed vulnerable, and it's unfortunate that the member across continues to fearmonger, to mislead, to misrepresent. English second language training, as I noted a number of times, is available to federal responsibility in over 80 locations, provided by over 35 not-for-profit organizations across the province. So, Madam Speaker, ESL is available. It's also, the part of that funding went to 4 post-secondary institutions as well. So, Madam Speaker, ESL, contrary to the misinformation being provided, continues by these members, continues to be provided across BC.